Good afternoon, everyone. I welcome all the participants and our eminent panel of speakers today at this seminar, which is on the supply chain and inventory modeling specifically for MSME sector. And I request all the participants, if they have any questions or queries that may arise during the course of the discussion, kindly submit these questions in the chat box so that these questions can be taken up to the speakers in the Q&A session. And we have with us today Dr. H.P. Kumar, who is Director External Affairs, and he was also former CMD of NSIC, National Small Industries Corporation. We have with us Ms. Priya Pangam. She is the head operations of the Catalyst. And we have Mr. Alvis Lazarus, who is the CEO of Hesol Consulting. And these speakers will be introduced in detail by Dr. Kumar. Before we begin the session, I would like to take a few minutes of your time to walk you through the organizers of this webinar, which is Power to SME and Wadhwani Foundation. And we also have Ms. Aparajita Prasad from Wadhwani Foundation. I welcome her also. Power to SME, it was established in year 2012 by our founder and CEO, Mr. R. Narayan. He came up with a very innovative business model which eliminated the intermediaries from the supply chain of raw material from big manufacturers and sourcing it to the small MSME manufacturers on demand aggregation basis. Thus, we were able to transfer the pricing benefit to the MSMEs. And Mr. R. Narayan, he has recently taken over the office of President FICCI CMSME, which is the MSME body within FICCI. This is the entire Power to SME ecosystem. As I mentioned, Power to SME, it deals with the raw material procurement and sourcing solutions. Our branch Finance Me, it connects MSMEs with the financial partners for smooth and seamless processing of working capital loans. Our brand SME Shops is the India's biggest B2B e-marketplace for MRO and industrial goods. Both corporates and MSMEs can buy and sell their industrial products over SME shops. And last year, we came up with our NBFC by the name Best Funds, which is into very innovative raw material and working capital financing solutions. The key product categories that Power to SME deals in include steel, polymer, paints, yarn, chemicals, and there are several others. The major industrial segments that we cater to includes auto components, electronics, engineering, textiles, and there are many more. Uh, these are the COVID-19 essential product line that we added to our SME shops vertical during the COVID crisis. We are the invested company. Some of the most reputed venture funds in the country have invested in us. Inventors, Kalari, Excel are the few big names. Nandan Nilekani is one of our strategic investors. We are also funded by World Bank through its financial arm, International Finance Corporation. These are a few awards and accolades that we have won since our inception. And this is where you can find us on social media. Any one of you interested in knowing more about our services can get in touch through any of these mediums. And now I would like to call upon Ms. Aparajita Prasad from Wadhwani Foundation, who will be walking you through a very innovative and recently launched program by the name Sahayata, specifically designed for MSMEs. So over to you, Aparajita.
Thanks, Umair. It's always a privilege and a good feeling to partner with Power to SME. Good afternoon, Dr. Kumar, Priya, and
Good
Alvis.
afternoon. Good afternoon. Welcome.
Good afternoon.
Thank you. So we at Wadhwani Foundation, we are always looking at ways to boost employability. That is what our entire motto is all about, into the employability. And we belong to Wadhwani Advantage segment, where we are helping specifically targeting the MSME segment to scale and grow them into 10x growth tangent. And for that, we provide consulting in terms of coaching, consultant, investors, corporates, networks, whatever is needed to scale up the journey. So that's what we aid the MSMEs to scale into their growth journey. Next slide, please. Yeah. So the areas that we generally support are into finding new target segment, new product innovation, diversification of markets, whether it is nationally or internationally, direct, indirect kind of selling. So we do help you out in different areas to grow. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Yeah. And together how we have been doing, like Zumair was talking about, the journey that we started after the pandemic was hit. We started with this program of Sahayata, and now when we see that a lot is being done, things are coming back to normal, we are still going ahead with our consulting program, where what we do once MSME registers with our program, we do a discovery process with them, where we understand what is the pain point, what is the challenge that they are facing, and then walk them through, map them to a specialist or a consultant who can help them raise up the transformation journey, so that we can achieve that growth and come out with a measurable outcome. So that's the entire process. And the foundation is working across the globe in 20 countries, and we are doing a lot of work into India and LATAM for the employability generation and growth of MSME segment. So I'm sure during the course of the seminar, in the chat box, Zumair would be sharing our registration link with you all. Do register with the link and we would get back to you guys. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Aprajita. And now I hand over the session to Dr. Kumar to take the discussions forward. Over to you, Dr. Kumar.
Thank you, Mr. Zumair. Thank you, Aprajita. In fact, it's a pleasure to chair this session. I welcome the distinguished panelists, and also my greetings to all the participants. In fact, this is one of the important topics that we are going to discuss and deliberate, and look at the nuances, in fact, involved in managing the supply chain and inventory. So I was talking to Priya before this, that people, industries, particularly manufacturing enterprises and businesses in general, do not pay much attention in the beginning to this aspect of inventory management and supply chain, logistics. But then at the end of the day, this particular function, inventory management and supply chain, management, as the substance of any business, because business means you have to deliver something in product or as a service. And when you have to deliver something, you have to make arrangements for its sourcing also. So if you are a trading enterprise, maybe sourcing will be to some extent, kind of a finished product, which you may require to have some value added. But then if you are a manufacturing enterprise, a production unit, you have to procure raw materials and other inputs, consumables, and other inputs which are required for manufacturing of that particular product in which you are. So supply chain and inventory becomes a very, very important function in any business enterprise, whether manufacturing or service enterprise. Now, talking about the supply chain first, what are the elements? I mean, how do you plan your operations? How do you plan your inventory and supply chain? How do you identify your efficient supply chain and fix the levels of inventory, as well as determine the supply chain methodology and the strategies? I would say that where do we start? I mean, the question is, how do we start? Where do we start, and how do we proceed? So, because it is a very, very comprehensive area of operations. So, I would say that we should start with our production planning as to what is our target of production, what is our quantum and size of production, the periodicity, the timetable of manufacturing. So that is all part of the production planning. And production planning also will get determined from the sales forecast. Um, what is your sales forecast? Based on your past performance and the capacity that you have, the installed capacity and the capacity that you are utilizing as of now, with all the infrastructure available, whether it is power or labor or other input space. So even if you have more orders but you don't have capacity, or you have not been used to working with that capacity, so you are not able to do that. So what I say is that production planning becomes a key factor, a very important factor, before you determine the inventory management or you start thinking of supply chain. Once you have fixed the, once you have arrived at the production plan, keeping in view your sales forecast and of course orders in hand, because if you make the sales forecast and you don't have the orders, or you are not able to supply, there is no question of fixing the sales forecast and then making the production plan. So it has to be synced based on the availability of orders, based on your sales forecast, past performance, available capacity. So once you make the production plan, then production plan will determine your inventory levels. When we say inventory levels, most of you must have known that there are minimum quantities and maximum quantities, and then ordering quantities. All these quantities, because these are very important yardsticks, in fact, to manage your inventory. Because otherwise, what is going to happen is, it may ultimately the objective is to cost reduction, by these managements and planning. But besides the cost reduction, smooth flow of your production and manufacturing activities is also important. Otherwise, you may land up in, uh, in a situation where your production gets interrupted and there are gaps in availability of material and the requirement of material. So, and the supply chain and inventory management both have to be synced in a way that you are able to get your minimum supplies on regular basis in order to feed and achieve your production plan according to what you are supposed to supply and sell to meet your orders in time. So this is all in line, you see. Orders in time, sales forecast, production planning, and then comes down to inventory requirements of different levels. And for maintaining those inventory requirements of minimum, maximum, and ordering levels, you have to plan for the backup supply chain. And this supply chain also becomes very, very important, because you have not only to select the methods of procuring material, but also the sources. Now when we talk of sources, you have various options. The manufacturing units and production units have various options. You can source it directly from the manufacturer, and when you are sourcing from the manufacturer directly, you have to see what is the cost involved and what is the pricing involved, and the distance, from where the material has to come. You have the options of procuring maybe locally from the retailers and wholesalers, and vis-a-vis the manufacturer, which may be located 2000 kilometers away. And then in between you have the aggregators, like Power to SME is basically intermediating between the manufacturers and the retailers, and helping the MSMEs and other manufacturers in arranging this material in time according to the needs, and providing and bringing, making it as a link between the two. So it is not only, as I said, the supply chain methodologies, but also the sources. And in sources also, you have to make the comparative analysis of various sources of supplies. Whether when you make the comparative analysis, it's not the pricing alone, but it's availability, pricing, and timing, and also the reliability. Reliability and sourcing are two very, very important things, because you may be having a better price from somewhere with lesser reliability, or you may be having much reliability with higher price. So you have to make a balance between the two, so that you have the both. It can't be one against the other. you have to have both reliability as well as competitive pricing, and then fix the source which is reliable and trustworthy and regular and meets with your requirement of the production planning. Because ultimately, lands there at production plan. All the strategies around your supply chain should come and land perfectly according to the production plan that you have. Now, fixing the supply chain, after fixing the supply chain comes the inventory management. Inventory management is not only, like keeping the inventory. It is basically from the very first day working out as to what is your ideal working capital requirement. When I say working capital requirement, inventory becomes a significant part of the working capital requirements. While assessing the working capital requirement and the inventory levels, you have to see what is the minimum inventory required in the storage. At any point of time, you should have the minimum inventory requirement fulfilled. Then what is your working process at various levels in the manufacturing processes? uh, I mean, stage wise, one has to make the analysis at one stage, second stage, third stage, because there could be 10 stages of the production process. And at each stage, how much is the minimum required inventory that is passing through each stage? So that planning has to be made. And after reaching 10th stage, when the product gets into finished product, the finished product also has to be stored for certain period at certain quantity in order to meet the deliveries in time, regular outflow of the deliveries in time. And then packaging also requires, packaging processes also require, some kind of inventory holding. And until the day the material is shipped and sent out. So all these process, work in process and goods in process has to be calculated and worked out as to what is the total inventory requirement. And then of course finished product, as I said. Now adding all these things will become your inventory holding. Now the question is, how do you determine the minimum level and how do you determine the maximum level? I would request my expert panelists who are with us today will I think throw some light on these as to how do you determine different levels of inventory which keeps your production going very smoothly without causing any interruptions. And one more thing which I would like to mention here is, without going into the details, that see, it is not only ordering of the quantities material. How much should be your ordering levels, and how do you receive the inventory? It is not only keeping the inventory in storage. You should have what kind of storage you should have, whether it is ideal for storing your kind of material, whether the insurance company from whom you are taking insurance, if at all you are taking insurance. And I would advise that inventory has to be insured in order to avoid the risk. So when you are insuring the stocks in your stores, insurance company also has certain requirements, of the kind of storage that you should have. You can't have inflammable kind of a, possibility of inflammation in that storage when you are storing the inflammable material. And you have to take all that precautions with regard to the fire and, theft and water leakage and all these, hazards, which natural hazards and all these problems which may arise in that storage. So you have to have a, ideal storage. The material receiving section should have proper receiving. It should be received by the people who are authorized to receive. And because even one wrong receiving can land into problem to your company, because your receiving may result in the seller getting the funding done or maybe discounting done based on your receiving. And maybe your receiving was done incorrectly, and instead of by the authorized person, somebody gave the receiving and that landed into the, benefiting the benefiting your supplier. So receiving has to be done properly. It has to be inspected with regard to the quality. That is another important issue, because if you don't inspect it properly according to the specifications according to which you gave the orders. Excuse me, Acharya ji, I am in a conference. I'll just call you back. Okay. Okay. Thank you. So inspection is another important aspect of the inventory management. The moment you receive the material, it has to be properly inspected according to the specifications of your order, and they have to meet. In case it is not meeting, then naturally you have to reject the material or maybe keep it separately so that you can go back to the suppliers and discuss about the way forward as to whether the material is to be returned, or maybe more discounts have to be taken, or some correction is required. So that inspection also becomes very important. And then of course the issues with regard to the processes and the methodologies and the formulas for issuing the material, whether you follow the first in first out and last in first out or average pricing. These are very other areas where other things which any enterprise has to determine, so that you follow that particular methodology for managing your inventory levels. I think these are the areas which any business enterprise, manufacturing particularly in the production unit, has to give consideration to for very effective supply chain and inventory management. And ultimately the objective should be cost reduction. Cost reduction not only in terms of reducing the cost of production, but also in terms of avoiding losses, because interruptions may cause losses, and planning should be such that there is no interruption in your regular flow of production and manufacturing. So this is what the inventory management is. I understand a lot of people have been talking about JIT, just in time, but then JIT is not applicable for every kind of enterprise. You know, sometimes it may it may I've seen industries and units suffering because they apply JIT, and then at the end of the day they find that they are not able to manage the supply chain so effectively that JIT is working very good for them, and there are interruptions. So while I don't deprecate the value of JIT, but then it has to be done very cautiously and very carefully, so that you don't land up in a different kind of a problem while saving some money on inventory holding, the cost of inventory holding. And financial resources, availability of financial resources is another point which I would like to mention at the end before inviting my expert panelists, that you can be very ambitious in managing your inventory. You can be very, very risk averse in managing your inventory, in that I would like to keep 3 months inventory. Sometimes, people keep 6 months inventory. These seasonal raw material which are available, like for example, rice shelling. The paddy is available only for a certain time in a year. So people have manufacturing of rice. Now rice shellers have to procure the paddy only during the time of harvest. So they have to procure and store it for 6 months or for even 9 months, because they have to carry on their production activities throughout. So sometimes, the storage or inventory management has to be structured in a way that your production doesn't get affected adversely, but at the same time you have to see your own purse also, the availability of funding, and working capital, also availability of resources, financial resources, and your procurements and inventory management also has to be synced with availability of financial resources. I think I will stop here. We have a very experienced panel today. Mr. Alvis Lazarus, who is CEO of Hessol Consulting, and Ms. Priya Pangam, who is Head Operations, the Catalyst. Both are very experienced, experts in inventory management and supply chain, and they are providing consultancy to a large number of organizations. I would like to invite first Mr. Lazarus, who is Chief Executive Officer at Hessol Consulting, an award-winning, supply chain and management consulting firm from India. He is a senior leader in supply chain and logistics with almost 2 decades of supply chain hands-on experience in devising country-level and global supply chain strategies. Excellent. I think, Mr. Lazarus, you are the best person to tell us, in fact, about what are the strategies, what could be the strategies for a small and medium. Of course, large industries have the wherewithals to understand and appreciate and put experts in their enterprises, but at least small and medium enterprises and micro enterprises would surely be interested And what better than you who can explain these nuances to them? So over to you, Mr. Alvis Lazarus.
Thank you so much, Dr. Kumar. So thank you for that preview on and the input on the inventory management side of it. All made real sense in terms of what we should do and what we should not do. All are able to see my screen, right?
Yes, yes. Please go ahead.
Okay, sure. So I think what I'm trying to do in this session is to share my experience in terms of how to set up an inventory model for an organization. Not just that, what kind of mistakes we normally do when we set up inventory, starting from not even looking at inventory. Sometimes the decision on what should be the right size of inventory I should hold, and so on. Considering the time we have, what I also kept is some of the proven models. So one benefit of being a consultant, the same inventory as a topic, I have been solving and working on different projects for the past 20 years in a full-time roles as well as now as a consultant. So I have also kept some proven models and proven approaches, like, okay, right after this meeting, what are the things you should do if you really concerned about your current inventory levels, and if you are really want to know about, okay, how I can transform my organization. And it is not really tough that immediately you need external support as well. You can try it yourself. So with that preview, let me move forward and share my inputs on this. So what you see here is a quick a summary of how a supply chain looks like. The reason why I'm starting with this, because this sets the context, though it is not, the session is not on supply chain. I would like to highlight how it is very, very crucial that we understand the end-to-end of supply chain and have a bird's eye view, because one of the concern in inventory, which I will talk about, is isolated decisions. We think that, okay, this is right for the organization, but by the time you realize, no, I think on a supply chain level, it is not giving a right impact, it will be too late, because most of the inventory decisions are not reversible. So it is very crucial we understand that. So if you really look at the supply chain, we have the key stakeholders of suppliers, who provide the raw material, the manufacturers who convert the raw material into the finished product, and then you have the distribution channel, which comprises of distributors and retailers, who then ensures the product reaches the customer. If it is in case of online retail, in case of offline retail, the final touch point is a retailer where customer walks in and buys the product. So this is on the nutshell. This complete set of engine, the supply chain engine, which comprises of all these stakeholders, starts only after the demand planning is done. That the billion dollar question, it is not even a $1 million question now, it has become a $1 billion question in terms of what would my customer want and what he or she is going to buy in the coming days, weeks, month, years. This is what a demand planning does. Based on the demand planning is where the supply planning, which then procures the material, plan for the conversion, and then ensure that it is available for the customer. So demand planning and supply planning, these are the two starting points to kickstart the supply chain engine. Okay, and then there are multiple operations and planning and operations within it, and I'm also not going to spend much time here. So it starts with the supply chain planning, which is the so much crucial backbone of supply chain. If planning fails, all the resources you put in either will become excess or it will become a short. In either case, it is not good for the business. So this inventory planning is within the supply chain, and it is one of the most crucial part within the planning phase of any organization. And with that context, I'm also going to move forward and talk about three key issues within the inventory. The first one is called a bullwhip effect. Okay, um, so what this means is, let me give a very small example. Assume once the demand planning is completed, now the marketing team is coming and telling, okay, assume we manufacture cars. So the marketing, sales and marketing team is telling, okay, from next month we are going to sell 100 cars per month. Moment this forecast is given, now you need to decide what is the kind of variability. So you make 100, what if it becomes 110, what if it becomes 120? So the first point of variability comes there. Okay, the forecast is 100, but let's have some buffer there, so that 100 becomes 120. So that is given to the sourcing team. Now the sourcing team, for this 120 cars, they need additional 3000 raw materials, and parts required to manufacture a car, and each would be required at a specific quantity. So on that 120, which is converted into the number of parts, then sourcing asks themselves, okay, what if there is a delay from the supplier? What if there is a problem in logistics? I will add some more buffer from my side. So he adds another 10 or 15%, right? Now, once this goes and comes back at each level, till that conversion is made and you're producing the car, each stakeholder adds a variability factor into it. Now, post COVID-19 situation, what happened is people are still more very, very conscious to tell, okay, I don't want to take a chance. Like Dr. Kumar was talking about just in time. Even organizations who were running in just in time after COVID, they are very skeptical. Let's keep at least 1 week stock. It starts with that. At each stage, every stakeholder starts to put that buffer. Now it actually shoots up the overall supply chain inventory. And one of the biggest problem in inventory is you will never realize it what has hit you. To just give an example, um, if you're not properly carrying inventory and if you're holding more, the average inventory carrying cost is close to 25% of the product value. That means there is a chance you are going to one, your money is going to held up, because cash flow is one of the biggest concern with most organizations today. Second one, 25% of carrying cost. Think about it, because people run around for 0.5 and 1% margin on product, because that is actually makes the difference for an organization. 25% as an average inventory carrying cost is a gold mine of information. And as a consultant, I can clearly tell you, of all the projects I drive, one project which gets the maximum value prop for any organization is the right inventory decisions and inventory optimization. So this bullwhip effect is one big problem post COVID-19. People are thinking that they are doing good and end up having a lot of stock held up, and that opens up a big black box of other issues which actually erodes your margin without even you knowing about it. The next one is isolated decisions. What happens sometimes, this is a very classic example, this is even pre-COVID-19 scenario, this is always there. Now, sourcing person decides, okay, I can do a bulk buy because I am getting a benefit of price. And he goes ahead and buys raw material in bulk. And if it is an isolated decision, that inventory is going to be stored in a warehouse. If warehouse didn't plan for that, if they didn't budget it for an additional stocks coming in, if they didn't plan for that additional preservation methods they need to take for this additional material, if you're not doing a cost benefit analysis as a team, end of the day, what happens is the PNL is going to be red, but the teams are going to decide they are doing with a good intention. But what happens as an overall supply chain, it is going to negatively impact the situation. I can give one example. Recently, like a few weeks before, we were working for an organization. They are into laptop service parts manufacturer. They manufacture all the parts which gets into a laptop, different part. They manufacture almost like 50-60 different parts within it. So what happens here, we were reviewing all the functions. We reviewed sourcing, we reviewed manufacturing teams, we reviewed their inventory planning teams. So each of the function, their KPIs are green, absolutely green. Everyone is working fine. KPIs are green, fantastically well. Some of the people got some very good awards from the management for their contribution. And then we went and reviewed the overall performance of the organizations. It was in a deep red situation. So that is where I want to highlight this. Sometimes what if you're not measuring something right and you're taking some isolated decision, and that organization doesn't have a common supply chain team. Each function works as an individual silo. As a function, they are doing great, getting awards. The metrics is green, but as an organization, it was in a bad state. So as we move forward, now we are cleaning up and setting up the complete revamp of their supply chain structure, decision making, how to work as a team. So many things we are doing, but the crux of the issues, what I want to highlight it today, isolated decisions which prevails today. So today, though I'm not going to spend more time on the nuances of what formulas you should use, because these are the things you have many ways to understand that. But these issues, if you're not fixing, none of the formulas or none of the tools are going to help you out. So that's the reason I want to highlight more on these issues. The last one is inventory optimization. When it comes to inventory, there is nothing called as this is the right amount of inventory. It is always an optimized amount of inventory. So what I'll give a very simple example. If you hold more stock, it is good from a serviceful standpoint. You never say no to a customer because you never get into a stock out situation. If you hold lesser inventory, it is good financially because you're not going to pay more for your inventory. Your cash flow is good, but you will start losing orders to your customer. Now I'm talking about two sides of it. The real game is understanding what is that right optimum level of inventory. This is where the struggle is. Even if you have some of the best of the systems, even if you have SAP, you have Oracle, you invested lakhs and lakhs of rupees on softwares, but do you know many of these softwares are not revisited, kept it dynamic. Some people update a min max once in a year. Current trend, we should have your min max and inventory planning done on a daily basis. We are working on a dynamic market. So what happens, you put in a lot of money thinking that tools and softwares are going to solve, but it's not going to happen unless you get deep into the inventory planning, understand it and put it. There are few clients I want to just highlight it here. They don't have SAPs, they don't have any costly softwares at all. We have built inventory planning models in Excel spreadsheets with automation, which picks up their data, does all the inventory and help them with right decisions at each level, working excellently well, saved a lot of money in terms of softwares, and also did the job good for you. So what I'm trying to explain is not to migrate to Excel sheets. I'm not trying to make that point. The point I'm trying to tell is you as an organization should not think a software or a tool is going to solve the issue of inventory. No, you should do even your proof of concept, even on a spreadsheet with your understanding. You can do that at a scale, then you migrate to a software, then it will give you the return on investment. It will get the job done for you. I think these are the three takeaways I want to explain in terms of what are all the issues prevailing related to inventory. And again, I want to highlight inventory is a hidden iceberg. Externally, what you see is very 10%. The 90% of negative impact it does is never seen. Okay, so that is very, very crucial as well. So what I'm going to show you now is what are all the nuances within inventory planning. Okay, so again, this is not to take and explain each and everything, because just to complete this slide, I need probably 3 to 4 hours. But what I want to highlight it here today is in terms of look at the number of decisions you need to take when you are doing a sales and operations planning. So I'm going to explain what is a sales and operations planning. I talked about issues related to people working in silos. Even Dr. Kumar talked about so many things. He talked about forecasting. He talked about how will I ensure how many parts are required such that I ensure I am producing the right parts. How much FG I should keep in stock. How much of raw material I should keep in stock, right? How many different suppliers I should have, right? All these decisions should not be taken in isolation. So all whatever I mentioned here in terms of strategic decisions, operational decisions, transactional decisions, all these decisions has to be taken as a single team. Now, to make that happen, there is something called as sales and operations planning. So if your organization doesn't have it, the first and foremost takeaway from this meeting, specifically from this event, is you need to implement a sales and operations planning model, that approach in your organization. Whether you are a retailer, whether you are a distributor, whether you are a manufacturer, doesn't matter. Unless you have a sales and operations planning in your organization, it is very difficult to make all your team members work towards a common goal. It's highly difficult. That's the reason we should have a sales and operations planning model. So what happens on a sales and operations planning model is 3 important things. One, as a team, first you document what are all the capacities involved. What is my capacity of manufacturing? What is my capacity in terms of RM storage? What is the capacity in terms of resources what I have? What is the capacity in terms of machines I have? Once you put all this in a piece of paper, you will exactly know what is the kind of output you can deliver. This is your step 1. Sometimes people will tell always the expectation starts from customer. Yes, but If you need to serve your customers well, first you need to be clear what you are capable of today. Sometimes people will have a huge target, get all the orders in place, but if your supply chain engine is not able to execute it, it will get into a great negative impact on brand, which will take 2 to 3 decades to reverse it. That's the reason people always tell, even if you're slow to expand, that's fine, the customers may wait for you, but when you go to a customer, you need to do it right the first time itself. This is one very important thing, and that's the reason step one in your sales and operations planning is your capacity planning. Once you have the capacity, now you are going to discuss with your team. Okay, you call in your sales and marketing team, how is the market doing, what is the customer expects, and what we have. You need to merge these two and see what commitment you can go to the customers today, and what you can do in next month, what you can do in next year. This complete planning has to be done, and sales and operations planning is done for at least 2 years and above. This is not your day in day out operation planning. This is an overall vision and plan of the organization. So once you do that, the third one, what you do is in terms of, to service my customers, what would be my cost. This is your typically a costing and pricing strategy, where we will arrive at financially what would be my margins, whether my PNL will be healthy at this volume. Once you have this three in mind, then you convert the strategic requirements into operational requirements. Now this translates into multiple things. How much of stock I should hold, how much of manufacturing I should do, what should be my work in progress, what should be my raw material stock, what should be my number of suppliers I should have, what should be my lead times. Everything else is derived from this strategic planning, and then that becomes your transactional input, which is your day to day. So as I said, this model is to show inventory decisions are never taken in isolation. Inventory decisions are now part of this sales and operations planning model. If any specific questions end of my session, I would be definitely able to take some answers. But this is the crux of why you should have a sales and operations planning model. So in terms of approach, now once you have decided, okay, now I need to do on sales and operations planning, everything well and good. Now, what are all the three things what you should know before you actually roll this out in your organization? Very important thing. I think even Dr. Kumar touched based on this one. The inventory's role. Sometimes what issue happens is, one organization see their competitors and then decide, okay, my competitor is doing just in time, I also should do just in time. My competitor is doing direct sell, I also should do a direct sell. That doesn't work out there, because this I can extend it. My competitor is having SAP, I also should have SAP. This kind of picking something which is proven for someone else and implementing in your organization, it is, I would call that as the biggest blunder what you can do, because the supply chain environment for your competitor may be completely different from the supply chain environment for you. And this starts not from inventory, it relates to any supply chain decision. Even 40 years before, there is a proven failures because of this. Dell started as a direct to customer model. HP and Compaq tried to copy Dell's model because they have been traditionally an offline retail specific model. They tried to copy, they miserably failed. Okay, so this is very important. Even recent one, Snapdeal started as a complete marketplace. Flipkart started as a complete inventory based model. Flipkart tried to overnight change to a Snapdeal model, it backfired. So like that, you can never copy directly. You can probably pick up, okay, this is where I should achieve, but that transition from your current to there will be a long process. Till the time you transition, obviously that is a competitive edge for your competitor. Okay, so what you should do is, what is inventory's role in my organization? Like for example, there are different supply chain. There is supply chain called make to stock. For example, all your FMCG products are make to stock, but there are specific products which are make to order. Only when you, after you give an order, that product is getting manufactured, right? Now, I can't go and pick up a make to order kind of supply chain and try to fit into a make to stock kind of supply chain. So what you need to do is, inventory is not a waste. Inventory actually gives you a competitive edge in terms of getting more and more customers. But when the inventory becomes a waste is the point number 2. RSQ means recommended storage quantity. What happens now? I said inventory is not a waste. What companies do, they take this for granted. Okay, inventory is not a waste. Let me stock good. That is where the problem comes. Recommended storage quantity means considering all my supply chain constraints, lead times, variability, demand fluctuation, my capacity constraints, my competitive edge, right? Considering everything, you are estimating, okay, for me to be successful, I should hold this much of stock by SKU. That could translate to 1 week of stock or 1 month of stock or 3 months of stock. Doesn't matter. But you should arrive at what should be my ideal inventory. Only then you can evaluate the current inventory holding and then tell whether I'm holding more or less. Sometimes what happens, if you don't have that benchmark, that reference, then how would you tell that whether it is good or bad? Think about this. I am just drawing a white line on the board and I'm asking you whether it is long or short. You can never tell whether it is long or short. But if I draw a line near to it and then tell this is your reference, then you can very easily tell whether that line is long or short based on the reference. That is what is recommended storage quantity. I'll clearly tell you, even if you are making a small business of potato chips, a small roadside vendor who's doing potato chips, all he does is procures potatoes, stock it, make chips, pack it, sell it. If the person who's going to use this recommended storage quantity and keep only stock of the right amount of potatoes, definitely will have an edge over the other potato chips vendors. Why I am picking up this is, even for a potato chips vendor, if RSQ is going to help him in lots and lots, think about a big organization who's holding millions and millions dollars worth of stock. I think I leave it there in terms of how important is RSQ. Last one is controls. Sometimes we do improvements and won't put the controls in place. Moment you arrive, this is what I should do. You should also put in controls in place such that any issues can be surfacing out immediately. Okay, so these are the three things part of the approach. And I'm also quickly going to show you a quick schematic diagram. A quick time check how much time I do have more.
Yeah, Elvis, we will have to, I think, conclude it in very short time.
Okay, I'll take just 5 minutes more. Sure.
Yeah, please make it as early as possible. Yeah,
okay,
even
sure.
Less than
Fine.
5 minutes.
So I'll just quickly show you. This is a schematic of replenishment model. This happens inside your software, or you can build it on even a spreadsheet. SMEs can build this on a spreadsheet itself. Probably offline, I'll take some questions if someone is interested, because it takes some more time to explain it. So what happens is when we put this in place, this will automatically will be helping you to arrive at the RSQ and give the triggers to your sourcing team, manufacturing team, and your distribution team to tell what kind of decisions you can take. This is just a schematic. Probably I can share a copy of this presentation also to Power to SME, and they can get it shared as well. The last one, I will take just 2 minutes quickly to explain it, because this is one of the hot selling cake currently. Post COVID-19, everyone have realized that my supply chain is not doing great. People were thinking my supply chain is the best. I have the perfect inventory decisions, but COVID has made us rethink everything. And this is a proven framework. More than 20 plus transformations we have done using this framework. I'll just quickly explain it. The first 3 weeks, we work on the current state mapping. Very, very important. Understand where is my business doing? What is my current state? 3 weeks, we use a tool called value stream mapping, come up with the current state documentation. And second, you will do as 3-prong analysis, which is called stress testing, dipstick study, and gap analysis. This is a form of simulation. Without actually implementing something, we are telling, what if my volumes go up by 20%, 30%? What if my absenteeism increases by 50%? We will put a lot of conditions, stress your business without actually any physical thing, and see where the business will fail. Basis that, we will then come up with business process re-engineering and debottlenecking. This is on a futuristic way. So I'm telling my business will fail because of this. I will proactively start putting actions in place. And then once that is done, I will come up with what is my to-be state, and I will get them getting implemented. This is a proven model. This as well, if required, I will share a copy. So this, using this model, post-COVID transformation, if you're really looking for a post-COVID-19 transformation of your end-to-end supply chain, This is a proven framework which can be used and transform your business as quick as possible. Okay, so that's all I have. Sorry, I had to rush the last few slides. Thank you so much for the opportunity and the questions time. If you have any follow-up questions, you can come back to me. I would be glad to answer them for you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Elvis. In fact, it was a very, very exhaustive and very useful presentation. In fact, a lot of nuances, in fact, need to be understood.
Yes.
It takes little more time. I appreciate that you have tried to, compress it in a shorter capsule.
Yeah.
But then people can get in touch with you in case
Sure.
they have, other issues to discuss or raise any questions.
Definitely.
But I fully appreciate that. People working in silos in different organization will not work. It has to be a coordinated approach because there are different sections and different kinds of decisions being taken. Some are
Right.
strategic decisions, some are operational decisions. Finance department has to be taken on board for certain decisions. Production planning, of course, is the key to all these. So it's an integrated approach which will really work for proper inventory management, and that is how the success of the inventory management can be achieved. So we will get back to you in case you continue to be with us, please. In case there is any question, let me now invite our other distinguished co-panelist, Ms. Priya Pangam, who is head operations of the company called Catalyst, and she is currently working with Nasik-based strategic business consulting firm, the Catalyst, which is into strategic business consulting and training and handling the operations and ERP vertical. She's also consulting for more than 5 years. So, and she has held several roles in different manufacturing organizations and handled different portfolios in the field of ERP, supply chain, HR. Priya is a specialist in supply chain, very good, and ERP and business and operational transformation, and has a lot of experience in leading a number of successful consulting engagements for purchase, stores, quality, production, ERP, HR. Wonderful. It's a very, very long, list of experience that Priya holds. It will be very, very enriching for all of us to listen to her and the inputs that she can provide and the guidance she can provide to our, participants. So over to you, Priya.
Thanks, Dr. Kumar and the Vadhvani Foundation for giving this opportunity. My pleasure to share my experience here. Today's topic is very vast. We have a limited time for the session, hence trying to cover the gist of it. Even thanks to the organizer who have permitted me to increase the time slot a bit so that I could cover some of the aspects.
Yes.
One-to-one, I can share any questions on the email or a phone also if time doesn't permit. And my email ID and the contact number is mentioned in at the end of the PPT. Here. It's just a quick introduction. Already Dr. Kumar spoke about our consulting firm, where we are having two verticals, one into the consulting and another is a training, and where we are providing various services like organized restructuring, business plan, management information services, SOPs, and utilization of the ERP or support to the new ERP and selection. So under the training vertical, we are providing various trainings like this management development programs, finance for business managers, then the business communication, time management, team building, emotional intelligence. These are some of our prestigious clients like TDK, Sula, Toshiba, Mitsubishi, and so on. In today's session is the operational transformation of the supply chain through inventory modeling for MSMEs. Today's competitive world, at every stage of our working, managers keep hitting the business, its top line and the bottom line in the various means, knowingly and unknowingly. The supply chain being a major cost driver, the content of this workshop is designed to understand the supply chain concept and its impact on the profitability and the liquidity, and how managers can efficiently run the supply chain in today's competitive environment through inventory modeling for sustainable business growth. These are the pointers which I'll be covering: the concept, the impact on profitability, liquidity, In current dynamic scenario, what should be the role of the supply chain manager, inventory modeling, and the dashboard or the reviews, what supply chain managers should do. This is what is supply chain. As Mr. Alves has already spoke about what is supply chain, I will directly move to the next slide. And as mentioned by Dr. Kumar, the sales forecast to the production plant, to the delivery to the customer should be synced in the supply chain. Here, what we can see is the proper integration of the demand and supply is necessary for the customer satisfaction as well as for the profitability of the service provider. What is the difference between the traditional procurement function and the current supply chain? In short, if I want to sum up, it is the procurement is the process of getting the goods your company requires, while the supply chain management is the extensive infrastructure needed to get those goods. The supply chain management is a crucial function. All the departments undergone the change, like earlier EDP, we know that the electronic data processing department has now become a CIO, that is a Chief Information Officer, who is playing a vital role in the decision making that's supporting the higher authorities with the data for the analysis. Same way for the finance and accounts department. Earlier, they were involved in the basic accounting, and now they have shifted to the controlling function. The people have scrapped their bill passing department and it is automated through the ERP. The same way the supply chain is evolved from the material procurement to logistics to dispatch, and the supply chain is a business partner and a major cost driver now. Here, I'll just run through the slide. We will see the share of a supply chain in the cost structure of the product. In the cost structure of the product, we can see that for the product having the selling price of rupees 100, the RM cost, which is around 60 rupees, logistic cost for inbound and outbound, which is rupees 5, and the interest on the working capital is rupees 2. The inventory cost, receivables and payables is a major part of the working capital. As mentioned by Dr. Kumar, working capital is playing a very major working capital. The same way the vendor's payable is impacting the working capital. So the overall supply chain is impacted by the working capital in a big way. Is the interest cost of the working capital is considered in the attribution of the supply chain. Here we can see that the total cost attributed to the supply chain is rupees 67, which is almost 80% of the total production cost. Hence, we can see that it is one of the major cost drivers. How the supply chain can contribute to the profitability and the liquidity. First, I will brief you about what is a profitability and what is a liquidity. Profitability is how well the company is generating the margins from the business, and it is a measure of the financial performance. And the liquidity is how well the company is able to convert its sale into the cash. That is, liquidity is the availability of a cash with the company. It shows how well the company is able to meet its short-term obligations. Business impact by the supply chain initiatives. As mentioned by Dr. Kumar, the cost reduction is one of the activities that that is impacting supply chain in a bigger way. So yeah, the cost reduction is a direct impact to the profitability. That is the permanent impact on the profit and loss. The cost reduction through the various ways like alternate vendor development, alternate item development, annual contract, shipment consolidation is improving the profit of the company. Revisiting the costing of product, even taking the make or buy decision, doing the vendor cost sheet assessment are adding direct impact to the profitability. On the other hand, the liquidity is also very important. So liquidity can be improved by reducing the minimum order quantities, inventory reduction through the various ways, receivables if they are managed, vendor managed inventory without compromising on the cost, and the payment term improvement. These are the factors which are actually improving the liquidity. This is how the many companies are working smartly and improving the liquidity. Even though the profitability of the two companies are same, but liquidity can be different based on how smartly we are working in a supply chain. Here, the role of a supply chain manager in the current dynamic scenario. As Already, Mr. Alvis have talked about the same. So I will just run through the pointers. In the current scenario, the businesses are down and the expectations are optimization of all functions in the supply chain, where everyone should work, no one should work in a silo and everyone should work in a team. So currently, the supply chain leaders are creating the transparency and building the rapid response capabilities to mitigate the short-term fallouts from the crisis. The COVID-19 pandemic has provided numerous lessons. Here are some inventory management strategies that which can be used going forward. One is pay the closer attention to the consumer signals. Today's leader must pay even the closer attention to the customer's demand than they ever have. The companies that navigated this successfully after the first initial shock took their signals from the end customers are successful. Some of the e-commerce retailers are seeing 250% increase in the demand for some of the products like hand sanitizers, soap, cold and flu medicines. When it comes to these essential health needs, it is important to check the inventory levels. In addition, the companies should establish a stronger communication channel with their distribution network so that they can share the information more accurately to identify the regional demand pattern. However, the business should question whether the demand signals they are receiving from their end customer are realistic or not. The next is focused on the data. Because the inventory management can be so complex, the prioritizing the data is a critical inventory management strategy for every company. Accurate data is very important, and properly selected and transformed data into insightful information is one of the best weapons against this pandemic. Diversifying the supplier network, the organizations that are better positioned to any pandemic are those who are able to quickly find alternative supplies to keep the operations running. Flexibility in terms of the ability to reposition and have a network that will allow the companies to respond appropriately is necessary, although the speed and the cost serves remains important. So the supply chain flexibility and resilience have proved to be a crucial differentiator. Focus on the inventory accuracy. Another critical inventory management strategy is understanding what products are accessible. During COVID-19 pandemic, the accuracy and the reliability of organizations' inventory levels are become more important. Knowing what we have and being precise about what we have is really important, and where it's located is also an important factor. Some of the organizations have distributed inventory in the multiple locations. You have to understand what's in each one of the warehouse, how accurate the records are, and whether the people are updating the inventory when they put something in or taking something out. The organizations that don't have good inventory levels and access to the accurate numbers will likely to find themselves struggling to keep up with the demand in some categories or having an oversupply of the items to the customers, which suddenly is a requirement of the customer. Problem arises when the company thinks that it has around 10 weeks of inventory of a particular item, and then they realize that they don't have a 10 weeks of inventory and it is only a 6 weeks of inventory. Here you have lost the ability to deliver to your customer, and in this example you have lost the sale or a revenue for a 4 weeks also. Some of the inventory management tools. So as the COVID-19 pandemic began, the companies have experienced the abrupt shift in the customer demand and the channel preferences. The organizations that weren't prepared or failed. To have avoided this, companies needed a much visibility possible into their inventory levels. In the supply chain, inventory management alone can make or destroy the supply chain. And it is important to take the inventory decision in an appropriate way. The inventory management system are mostly based on a well-organized inventory concept, models, and technique. Inventory techniques that have an impact on overall performance of the company. To understand the technique, I will brief you about the material classification first. There are multiple criteria we can classify the material. Criteria can be the uses of the material, the value, the consumption, and the frequency. First of all, why do we need to classify the material? We as a manager need to focus on the specific group of items which are high value. If we focus on those items, it will help us to get the cost benefit. We will be able to save the substantial amount for the organization. The focus area can be identified by the classification of the material. Here, the ABC analysis, which divides the inventory on the basis of annual cost and volume. You can see the usage and the value is taken into consideration. Here, A item represents total 70 to 80% of a total value. B items are those items where the medium volume of around 15%, and C class occupies almost 5 to 10% of the total annual cost. As far as the quantities are concerned, class A is around 5 to 15% of the total quantity, which falls under the category A. 30% of the total quantity falls under class B. 50 to 60% of the total quantity falls under class C. We can clearly see that the A class item are the costliest item from the overall procurement, and the quantity wise which are less in numbers. Hence, the focus on these items will give the substantial benefit. Out of 100 items, we can see the only 10 are falling under the class A, whose value is around 80%, and 30 items are class B, value-wise, which are around 15% of the procurement. C class is around 60 items, which are contributing to the 5% of the procurement. Here, one example on what is the ABC or how we should calculate it. Here, there are the items numbering from 1 to 10 along with the rate per unit. Annual consumption is mentioned. Now we will see how we can calculate the ABC. This is just a practical example how we can calculate the ABC. One criteria for the ABC is the value of the item. Hence, we will multiply the rate per unit into the annual consumption quantity. This will give us the total value of procurement of each of the items. We will be arranging this data based on the total value. We will sort the data in the descending order of a total value. Number 9 item is contributing to the 36% of the total inventory value, and the item number 7 is contributing to the 2% of the total value. We have even calculated the percentage quantity of each item from the total procurement quantity. Here we can see that 15% of the total quantity is contributing to the 70% of the total value, which is class A. 28% of a total quantity is contributing to the 16% of the total value, which is class B. And 57% of the total quantity is contributing to the 10% of the total value, which is class C. This in particular is very important for the SMEs because it doesn't matter whether you are small or big, but the principle remains the same, and that will assist you to take a crucial decisions regarding the approach used in keeping the inventory. This economic order quantity model, EOQ model. This is a most essential and the simplest model which has been developed over the years. EOQ is used to determine the optimum order size for each inventory item and reduces the ordering and the inventory carrying cost. How we can use the scientific logic to find out the EOQ that will minimize the overall inventory management cost. There's a simple equation of the EOQ which will tell us about when to order, how much quantity to order. We need to set the reorder level for this, that after this much of use of our inventory, the next order needs to be ordered. To find out the answer of this question, we will use the EOQ formula. Here, first of all, I will just brief you about the EOQ model. Here, the assumptions are the EOQ for EOQ model. Demand is constant over time. The lead time of a receipt of material is constant, and the ordered quantity is received in a single lot. If you see on the y-axis, we have order quantity, that is the inventory level, or a number of quantity available in the warehouse for the particular item, represented by Q. On the x-axis, it is time. We have a quantity Q in stock. Demand is represented by the slant line, which is assumed as a constant over time. When our inventory reaches the reorder point R, we need to place the next order. The dotted line depicts the time of placing the order. The lead time is taken to receive the material into the bin. The order received is the point when we receive the total ordered material. With this receipt of material, quantity is replenished and again touches to the inventory level of Q. Let's take an example. We have 100 quantity and our reorder point is 20. The consumption is constant. We order our next lot of 100 quantity when we reach to the level of 20. By the time we consume the 20 quantity, we receive 100 quantity back in a stock. Again, we will consume this 100 at the constant rate. And once, if we fall below the level, then we say that we should have the safety stock. And suppose because of any problem, if the material does not reach us on time, then we will consume the material from the safety stock. Here, how to calculate the economic order quantity. We have two important variable costs. One is the ordering cost, that is cost of placing the order, and second is the holding cost. Carrying cost is directly proportional to the period of time we are storing the material in the warehouse. Ordering cost is directly proportional to number of times we are placing the order. Holding cost is that cost when you are keeping something in the inventory that will incur some cost for keeping the inventory. There are multiple sources for this cost. To keep this stock, you have taken the warehouse on the rent. Maybe you are paying an insurance premium cost for securing this inventory. So there will be some kind of opportunity cost also. You might have blocked your capital in keeping the inventory. As a result of that, you are losing some other opportunity or using this capital. So adding this to the holding cost is always represented by the percentage of your material cost. Ordering cost is the cost of placing the order. Here I will take one example. Let's take an example that I want to drink a cold drink every day after my dinner. There are two possibilities. After my dinner, I take my car, go to the general store, buy one cold drink, and there is no inventory I have kept. Another is in one go, I can go and purchase the 1 carat of a cold drink, maybe the quantity will be 12. I consume this cold drink daily, one bottle. In this case, I need not to visit the shop daily for next 12 days and going to the store and coming back, the amount of the fuel that I was consuming will be my ordering cost. And since I am not keeping any inventory, the holding cost will be zero. In the second criteria, where the entire carat of a cold drink is purchased, I need to visit to the shop only once. Hence, my ordering cost will be reduced substantially, but my holding cost will increase tremendously. As I have kept the inventory, hence paid the money for the whole 12 bottles, I cannot use that money for my other activities. In this case, any leakage may take place, wear and tear may take place. I have to take a call to have an optimized ordering cost and the holding cost. I need to have a balance between these two. And to have this, we have a EOQ formula, which is Q is equal to square root of 2 into DS divided by H. That is 2 into annual demand into the cost of placing the order divided by the holding cost. Here, one example where you can see that our annual requirement is 1600 units. The cost of material is rupees 40. The cost of ordering is rupees 50 and the annual inventory is 10% of the material cost. And if we calculate, the EOQ quantity will comes out to be the 200 units. Here, as Dr. Kumar spoke about just in time. That is, just in time is one of the method to for the inventory optimization. It ensures that the exact quantity of the material that is needed is delivered, and this helps in reducing the inventory investment and other costs. The size of the batch becomes smaller and inventory level lowers. The materials only purchased when they are required for the production process. Here we can say that even though each and every company cannot use the JIT due to the current their business model. So this is one of the methods some of the companies may use it. The another is vendor managed inventory. Here that improves the supply chain within the company and helps in coordination of the flow of the product to the customer. In the VMI this is one of the good solution where the vendor will have the higher responsibility because he is the one who is managing inventory for us or for the manufacturer. Next is the ERP function. ERP system can be used to optimize the inventory, the material requirement planning that helps the businesses to determine when and how much material need to be purchased. When the SMEs adopt the concept of the MRPs, there is a sufficient inventory that could meet the production demand and meet the available demand in the normal operating environment. All the above concepts which I have mentioned are automated in the ERP. Here, some of the parameters which the supply chain managers should look upon. How we being the supply chain managers are able to review our performance of the supply chain is very important. Some of the parameters are on-time delivery, which is in percentage. In all the parameters, you can see that the target is defined and the current progress is monitored against the defined target. Performance is monitored for the month as well as cumulative, that is for the year to date. Ideally, the OTD target for any company should be 100%. But if we know that there are some inefficiencies in the supply chain, we may target based on the target is based on the action plan. Here we can consider that it is 95%. And again, that what is achieved against the target is mentioned. As mentioned earlier, the profitability and the liquidity is the two aspects which are very important for any supply chain. The cost reduction initiatives will improve the company's profitability and liquidity. And here there are some of the parameters which are mentioned here, like a payment of improvisation, alternate vendor development, alternate item development, vendor managed inventory, inventory carrying cost, Incoterm improvement. So through these parameters, we can actually initiate the cost reduction and we can help company to improve the profitability and the liquidity. Here I have put the dummy data for reference purpose only. Some other parameters are inward freight as a percentage of a material cost. For 100 rupees of material I buy, I am paying rupees 2 as a freight cost. Here the material cost is considered only for those items where the freight is applicable. Inward freight as a percentage inward freight cost per kg. It is if I buy 100 kg of a material and if I pay the freight of 1 rupee, where we are in terms of the target line, whether I have achieved that target or not, can be monitored here. In same way, same as inward, the outward freight as a percentage of the sales can be monitored. There are many more parameters which can add value to the supply chain. I have mentioned just few of them. I have tried to touch some aspect of the supply chain and the inventory. Supply chain being a vast subject, I tried to cover some of them. And due to the time constraint, I have to rush the slides very fast. So sorry for inconvenience. And I will surely share the PPT with the Badhwani team, and you can get in touch with them for the PPT. Over to you, sir.
Dr. Kumar, you are on mute.
Yes. Yes. Thank you very much, Priyaji. Thanks a lot. In fact, my connection got little disrupted, so there is slightly gap. I appreciate, in fact, various nuances that you presented in your presentation, and I have noted down one very, very important message that you said, and that is optimizing the inventory level and optimizing the cost. I think these two words, these four words basically are the entire summing up of your presentation. How to optimize the inventory levels and how to optimize the cost, both are the end objective with which the entire strategy in fact works. So thank you very much. I think we have had a wonderful presentation. I am sure the people would have substantially benefited, and anybody who is wanting to have more information, interaction, can also have interaction with Priyaji. And I would like to not raise more questions. In fact, we have had very, very exhaustive presentations. So I will ask if there are any questions, Zumair or Sodamini, then please raise those questions so that our experts can answer.
Sir, we have not received any direct question as such, but a few comments that were submitted to us at the time of registrations. I'll be happy to share those
Yes.
compiled statements and questions with our speakers on email separately.
Okay.
But
Okay.
many requests have come in for the presentation of both the speakers to be circulated to all the participants and registrants. So I request both the speakers to kindly share their presentations so that we can circulate it among all the registrants. Thank you.
Wonderful. I think we have had a wonderful session. It's very exhaustive because this issue that we have deliberated today has things to ponder upon. Inventory management is a very, very technical issue, and it is not only the small but medium, large. Any enterprise needs this kind of strategies and the perfection in managing these inventory levels and also perfecting the supply chain systems. So that is how the end objective of optimizing cost and optimizing the profitability of any enterprise can be achieved. And the Power to SME is, of course, into this space, and Power to SME is helping the SMEs, in fact, to optimize their inventory levels and also meet their financial needs so that they can have the best of inventory management systems, and and it doesn't lead to any kind of interruptions in their production planning or meeting their sales obligations and commitments. So I think since there are no questions, we come to the close of this program, and I would like to thank the esteemed panelists, Priyaji and Mr. Lazarus, and also thank the organizers, Vadhwani Foundation and Power to SME, Mr. Zumair and Sodamini, and Parajita from Vadhwani Foundation to having put this program into shape and organizing this event with participation of a large number of audience. So in case there are any questions, you can write to Power to SME, and the presentations, whosoever requires, of course, Power to SME will be able to share that. So thank you very much. Over to you, Zumair.
Thank you, Dr. Kumar, for your time, and I thank all other speakers, Ms. Priya, Mr. Lazarus, for their valuable time and their inputs, insights they have shared on the topic today. I hope all the participants must have found that very interesting and useful in aligning their business activities accordingly. And I wish all of you a very happy festive season and happy new year pretty much in advance, but happy new year to all of you, and we hope to see you again in our next and forthcoming sessions as well. Till then, have a good day.
Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much. All the best. Take care. Stay safe, stay
Thank
healthy.
you.
Thank you.
Thanks all.
Bye.
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 Thank you, everyone.